wonder what Liverpool fans would have made of that today. It's about using our own tools. There will be no replacement for Coutinho this window, at least. Craig, what do you make of that?
Well, you can't replace Coutinho. You certainly won't be able to do that in this transfer window either. You just have to find a different solution. You know, Liverpool do have attacking-wise, it's not a concern for me. It hasn't been for a couple of years now. It's the balance in transition. So when they lose the ball up front, they leave their defence very vulnerable. But also breaking teams down. It's been a problem now for a couple of years. You know, all right, we might panic now and say because they've just lost Coutinho, they lost against Swansea, lost against West Brom, so suddenly everyone's going to look towards a Coutinho deal as bad business. It was going to happen. I think we knew that. All right, it didn't happen in the summer, but you always felt coming into this transfer window it was going to happen. So it has. But I just felt they've had a problem against these teams now over the last couple of years. This has nothing to do with Coutinho going. This is Liverpool breaking down a team that are defensively organised. Defensively, they're set up very deep. Liverpool have struggled to break them down.
Give us the sort of background on it, Jason. Was this, as Craig says, always going to happen in January?
I think so. I mean, I got a feeling sort of midway through the autumn that Liverpool were basically changing their minds a little bit and think, well, we'll let him go in the January window. I think the fact that Mo Salah went there and did so well, and it just changed the dynamic a little bit around the team, because before that we were talking about it being like, almost like the Philippe Coutinho team. If without Coutinho they didn't have that special player. Salah comes in, does tremendously well. Firmino's playing well. Mane's playing well. So those sort of areas, you suddenly think actually we probably don't need him as much as we did, and maybe actually Klopp as well has thought, I'm getting a bit fed up with this now, and I'll let him go. I'll move on. The team will move on without him. He's got Lallana coming back, and I think that's been a little bit of an issue, and it's probably taken a little bit longer than we expected to get back to speed. And he's got a lot of faith in Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's got Naby Keita coming in the summer, so he's probably thinking, and somebody told me right at the start of the window, they're not going to buy anyone. And that's not what the fans want to hear, because fans are, not being rude, fans, you sell a player, they say, right, who are going to buy? And actually, sometimes you've got to put your faith in the manager.
Sell a player for 140 million, you're wondering who you're going to buy.
Now, the only thing I'd say about it is big clubs don't tend to sell big players in January windows and put yourself under pressure for the second half of the season. I thought there must surely have been a way of constructing a deal whereby they do it now, but he stays with them until the end of the season. He can't play in the Champions League for Barcelona. Obviously, they've got him lined up as Iniesta's replacement. I think they were under an awful lot of pressure to do this deal. I think that's why they paid the price. I think their players have put them under pressure to get this deal done because they wanted more players to come in after Neymar. And I think actually Klopp, to be fair to him, has just thought, I could do without this.
Craig will give us the football perspective on this, Christian, but from a strategy point of view, does it look an error to not have somebody lined up to come in when you have known, potentially since the back end of August, September, that you were going to sell him in January?
Well, that's why I agree with Jason that it's quite exceptional to see a top team in contention certainly in two important trophies, the Champions League and the FA Cup, and obviously, the day-to-day business of making sure you're top four for next season. Those are all very, very live mid-season challenges that Liverpool face, and to effectively put money in the bank and take a player away who I think any football expert would say that the likelihood of Liverpool winning the Champions League without him has reduced. The likelihood of coming fourth is reduced. And they've already gone out of the FA Cup within a week of him leaving. So in pure footballing terms, it's a gamble. And your question is about strategy and business. Well, it's a very artificial separation because this sport centres on what happens on the field. It's no use to Liverpool strategically to consistently not win trophies and, God forbid, to miss top four. And so I would have thought the businessman in the ownership group would have not needed to take that gamble, and I agree entirely with Jason. I would have expected if they needed to give the player certainty that he was going to fulfil his dream and go to Barcelona, that a deal could have been done, either money now with a loan back or a contract deferred delivery of player and money in May. Neither of which, by the way, I think would have been actually the way to maximise the player of the value, because of the value of the player, because I think come the summer, this player's a starter for Brazil, playing brilliantly. If Paris, Real Madrid and Barcelona were all in for Philippe Coutinho on the back of a World Cup, this player may have been £200 million. So again, I thought the winners here were Barcelona and the losers were Liverpool, other than their bank balance. And fans don't care about bank balances. No. They care about winning.
What do you think?
Look, there seems to be a bit of pressure from Barcelona as well that this deal was going to happen now. This weren't going to wait till the summer. And also, going into the summer as well, you're right, you know, there could be other clubs interested, but they could be interested in one or two other players as well. Someone else in the World Cup might catch their eyes. So Coutinho now is looking at it, probably felt, and Barcelona might have put that pressure on just because they wanted him now very soon, said, well, it either gets done now or you take your chances in the summer and this move might not happen.
Would we be having
so
this?
I just felt with the manager as well and being Coutinho, the Coutinho, of course, he wanted to go to Barcelona. That was clear. But also the human side as well as the manager. I have to be able to look you in the eyes. If I'm trying to improve you every day, this is a club that every top player in the world, Real Madrid, Barcelona are different. They're different levels to everyone else. They're the pinnacle of football for me. And if they come calling for one of your players, it's very, very difficult to turn around and say you can't.
The list of players, great players, and it's very personal for me. I saw Xabi Alonso go to Real Madrid. We saw Javier Mascherano go to Barcelona. We saw Fabregas leave. But, you know, they do go eventually. What we're debating here is not whether Philippe Coutinho was always going to end up at Barcelona. We're debating why they would take that money in January.
Take that risk as well.
Of the season. And risk, really, you know, the project, the Klopp project that is 2.5 years underway here, and probably the next step in Jurgen's success would be a trophy. And the club, I don't know, Jason, whether you agree with this, but Liverpool are, you know, have the makings of a really dangerous team in the Champions League.
I agree they do.
We've all been there.
Suited to the Champions League.
Yeah.
Home second leg in the knockout stages. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to come to Liverpool, even defending a 1 or 2-0 lead. And for Liverpool to be, you know, they've got a reasonable tie, Sevilla. Last 8 Champions League, anything can happen. But one thing that is certain, it's less likely without Coutinho. I would have thought that the Fenway Group would have prioritised winning over the bank.
But I think, to be fair to them, they made it the manager's decision, and I think, you know, it absolutely was Jurgen Klopp's decision to sell.
Why did he just pull the ripcord?
You know what managers are like. He'll back himself. He'll back himself and think, for the better of the team, for the better of the future of the team, this is the right deal for us to do now.
Do you think 18 games undefeated was sort of making him feel a bit...
I don't think so. And to be fair to them, the first game after the sold Coutinho, they beat Manchester City and beat them really, really well.
And if they won the last 2 games, you wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's probably his frustration, that, you know, they've had those 2 bad games and suddenly this becomes a live issue again, you know. But I think he's got a lot of faith in that squad. I think, as I've already mentioned, Lallana coming back, he's got a lot of faith in him. I think the problem is the injuries taking its time for him to come back. And they did try and get Naby Keita earlier. They have tried to do something, but I think he's keeping his powder dry.
And we are
for the summer.
We are forgetting a very important point. And I think the chronology made people see this the wrong way. But the Van Dijk acquisition for a spectacularly high price, world record price for a defender, I believe, balanced. You know, 70-odd million, a few days later, 140 in. So they did spend some of the money.
Now, they've been quite clear that money is separate. They have been quite clear on that. Now, obviously, time will tell whether that's the case, but they were quite clear.
As far as a fan is concerned, honestly, Jason, there's £70 million in the bank and we're short a match winner, you know, what the Americans call a difference maker. It's a really good phrase. He made a difference in tight games, and I don't know whether, Craig, you think he would have done
Interesting question on this. Let me give this to Craig. Twitter questions coming in tonight. This is from Paul Lee. Liverpool reduced the size of their squad on the back of 2 consecutive defeats and have no plans to reinvest, while all their top 4 rivals strengthen. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, look, trying to remain positive. Look, my concern with Liverpool is being against the lesser teams, especially at Anfield. The way they play, with the wingers rolling inside, it gets very crowded, very congested, very difficult then to, you know, Coutinho, that's where his magic does work, because he can find a pass when it doesn't look like there's nothing gone. But those type of games, especially the Swansea game, was just, I'm watching it for the first 10, 15 minutes. The wingers need to stay high and wide. Get your width. They need to create width. They need to stay, because these Salah's an outstanding footballer, Mane, leave them 1v1. Because if they keep rolling inside, it gets congested, especially with Swansea playing 5 at the back, then you can't go and play in against these teams at Anfield. That's why they've come unstuck. Against top teams, now in the Champions League, I really fancy them to have a good run. Because away from home, on the counter-attack, they're outstanding. You're very difficult. Top teams will find it very difficult to
But
play.
they are sitting by, Craig, watching Spurs today, PSG. They're giving them 25 million for Lucas Moura. Arsenal on the verge of getting Aubameyang, having done the Mkhitaryan for Sanchez swap deal. Do you see the point about the rest getting better?
Look, the problem you've got is someone like Coutinho, because he was that good, the money that you're going to have to spend more than your 25 millions, more than your 40s, 50s. And these players are very difficult to get older in this window. It's a difficult window. Forward-wise, Liverpool are comfortable. Liverpool have an outstanding forward line. Defensively, you know, the Keita deal, who's an outstanding footballer, by the way, but they've got him coming in. I can see why they tried to get him now. They're desperate for him. They need him because
you're just saying in a different way why summer was the right time for Coutinho to go.
I'm not sure Coutinho was willing to wait and take the gamble of it happening in the summer.
No.
Because, look, if Barcelona are then saying one thing, saying, well, hold on a second, there might be other targets in the summer. His agent would be saying that as well, by the way. He'd want a deal done right now because obviously he gets paid quicker.
Jason, what do you think the impact would be if they miss out on the top four, Liverpool, this season?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question because somebody's going to miss out, aren't they? You know, obviously they can't all finish in the top four, although they've managed to get into the Champions League last season by the back door with Man United qualifying through Europa League. I think it's going to be a big disappointment if they don't do it. I think it's a risk, you know, that they've rolled the dice here a little bit, haven't they, with what they've done here?
That's exactly what they've done. They've gambled on the field.
But I think it's the manager having faith in what he's got. And, you know, I think he's trying to hold his nerve, and I think he's definitely got a couple of deals that he wants to do in the summer, you know, sort of lined up. But he's probably thinking, I can't get these players now. I think I've got enough to get me through.
In real terms, Christian, what would it mean, missing out on the top four for Liverpool?
Well, I think it's important for our audience to understand that has changed somewhat in the last few years in the following respect. The sheer scale of the UK domestic TV money now so dwarfs even the monies available from Champions League that when I was at Liverpool, for example, and for 9 years out of 10, at that time the big four always got into the Champions League with one exception. It was worth £25 million a year more to the big four, and that was an advantage. Think of it, in those days, £5 million a year got you a Fernando Torres, so 4 or 5 superstars, more resources was the competitive advantage. And by the way, very importantly, 4 teams were basically fighting for those 4 places. And then Manchester City changed the world. And by the way, perhaps unexpected, I don't think they've had the credit for it, Spurs organically, almost doing it the hard way despite the money, emerged as a 6th team. So now we have 6 into 4, but to be frank, those clubs can absorb missing Europe. Maybe
there's a status problem, isn't it?
It's signing talent that is the bigger issue now than the pure financial one. And by the way, it's something that's not often said, but it's true, and I can say this now having worked in Liverpool and at Chelsea. The geography is a real factor as well. So if you're out of the Champions League and you're in the Northwest, international footballers coming to Britain for the first time are drawn to London as well as the Champions League. So I think for Liverpool in particular, I mean, their principal draw is their manager. Hugely credible. He's an asset in the transfer market. But outside the Champions League, outside London, life gets tough.